Uncle Dan.
Hey, Uncle Doug.
It was just, I think, a couple episodes ago we were talking and decided that this podcast is, if not already, will eventually turn into a cult.
Yeah, I mean, look, you go with what you know.
Yeah.
And we've been studying cults enough that hopefully, eventually, we'll have learned enough to become cult leaders ourselves and make that sweet, sweet cash / as mass suicide.
Yep. And we're going to go out with a premium beverage.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, it's so true. Uncle Doug, Uncle Mark, whichever one of you is in Canada, why don't you tell us? Because I think you've done some culting lately.
Yeah, I've done more culting than I like in this life. For some reason, I escaped one, and now I talk about them all the time. Which, how the fuck did that happen to me? So, yeah, we've talked about quite a number of cults on this here program, guys. Some big. Some small, some long gone, oftentimes, as Doug alluded to, in some kind of mass casualty event. And there's some that are still here. Today I want to talk about one that is somehow still here, but absolutely has the smell of an impending mass casualty event about it. And it's trying in a big but very strange way to gain some real power.
Nice.
And that'll lead to maybe a little open discussion at the end about the public's right to know about a person's religious views. Won't that be exciting?
I think we're all just on tenterhooks now.
Yeah. And the cult of which I speak today, guys, bears the catchy name of the Science of Identity Foundation, or SIF for short.
Oh.
So, yeah, rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? So who or what is this exciting...
Does that make the adherents to this syphilises?
Siphites.
Siphites?
Siphums. So, who or what is this exciting foundation devoted to the science of identity, whatever that might mean? Let us rewind back to the heady year of our Lord, 1970. As we've discussed many times here on the show, the babies of the post-World War II boom had yet to become Republicans and dismantle all the social programs that have delivered them a cheap, abundant life at the cost of all future generations. No, in 1970, they were still in the drug-fueled afterglow of their near-permanent adolescence of the summer of love. They were still seekers and bafflingly willing to sign up to sit cross-legged in front of any idea with a whiff of the exotic East to it. And one very fragrant Eastern idea blew into Hawaii in 1970, and that was in the form of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a Hindu holy man.
Gesundheit to both of you.
Say that 3 times. That's going to be the new sobriety test.
Yeah.
All right, say this 3 times fast. He was a Hindu holy man who founded a particular brand of Hindu devotional practice called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a highly devoted group of people more commonly known as the Hare Krishnas.
Woo!
Oh.
Yeah, so if you're close to my age, let's call that, for academic reasons, 50, you'll remember these people well. They had shaved heads minus a little rat tail, and they were dressed in various shades of saffron robes and pantaloons, and they were either chanting and clanging bells endlessly or handing out free copies of their holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. They were always hanging out at airports, bus stations, public parks, and tourist spots, but they seem to have disappeared, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
You don't
travel
see
a
them
lot.
much.
I haven't seen them for years,
Yeah.
years and years.
And you know what? I don't miss them.
I mean,
I see them every time I rewatch Airplane.
Exactly.
right. Well, that's how ubiquitous they were in culture, right? They were everywhere. And they were, always in orange, and they very much set themselves apart from society, but they seem to have just kind of blown away. I don't know if they changed up the look or what, but anyway.
Well, it's a thankful thing one way or the other.
Yes, I'm not complaining. Anyway, back to Hawaii in 1970. The aforementioned A.C. Swami Prabhupada felt he would find many disciples among the island's abundant supply of free love flower children living the dreamy aloha life. And he was right. One of these eager seekers that glommed onto the Swami was a guy called Chris Butler. Butler was born in Louisiana.
That is too easy of a name. You're going to have to change that.
I think you nailed that one.
Wait till you hear what he changed it to.
Yep. I knew it would have to change. I knew that we couldn't just stick with that.
Yeah, brace yourselves. No amount of practice has prepared me for this name. So, Butler was born in Louisiana and would later claim that his family was chased out of there by the CIA when he was 2. That's called,
Of course,
that's called
totally
foreshadowing.
happened.
However they left, the Butler family wound up in Hawaii, where his father, both a medical doctor and a communist, would drag his children out to protest American involvement in the Vietnam War, earning them all sorts of abuse by an angry public. But Butler was a poor student and apparently an all-around general fuck-up. But like many of the mediocrities we examine who become cult leaders, Joseph Smith, Jim Jones, David Koresh, Warren Jeffs, he possessed a certain magnetism, and he knew it. Tall and good-looking, he had penetrating blue eyes that some women found irresistible. He soon turned his devotion to Swami Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna practice into an opportunity to start his own chapter of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and place himself in leadership. This was at first supported by its founder, Swami Prabhupada, but the relationship became tense and eventually toxic as Butler demanded more and more autonomy, wishing to create the chapter more in his own image than that of Krishna. Now, quick visual aside, guys. I said he was magnetic and good-looking. I'm going to send you over a couple of pictures right here from recently. It turns out that time and batshittery can be rough on the magnetism. So here he comes. Take a look. Feast your peepers.
Okay. Boy. Damn.
I haven't gotten it yet, but I believe.
Yeah, it's it's been a rough 40 years. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it looks like Jeff Bezos stopped drinking water and lived to be 150.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, that's just a little visual for later. So the split with the Hare Krishnas did not fully occur until Swami Prabhupada gave Butler his own Swami Hindu name, and I'm going to nail this, Jagadguru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
He's speaking in tongues. We have to do something.
Which is how he insists on being referred to this day. And while I hate to dead name anybody, I can't pronounce his new name, so we're just going to stay with Butler. So
he was the worst clue on Wheel of Fortune ever.
Oh my God. So Butler broke away from the Hare Krishnas and founded his own consciousness-raising little tribe, the Science of Identity Foundation, which is still in existence today. Now,
and which probably is really good at science and really good at identity, I'm guessing.
It's funny how those things always tend that way, isn't it? Like, it's really not about either of those things.
Right.
Now, what sets the very particular devotional practice of the Hare Krishnas apart from general Hinduism, as I read it, is the devotion to a single god, that being Krishna, who we can talk about in detail another time because Krishna's very fascinating. But why that matters here is that Butler kept that tenet of the faith, but ever so slowly pushed Krishna out of the frame and replaced him with himself. So,
right, that's what you do.
That's what you do. The oddly magnetic
That's how
Butler,
the bait and switch works.
Yeah, baby. Classic. So the oddly magnetic Butler was now what he knew. He was destined to become God. Now, even with as much as I've read and written on the cultist mindset over these years, and even being a cult survivor myself, I just can't wrap my head around the kind of personality that was as happy as a clam to worship Krishna one day, then just swap him out for a tall, handsome surfer and C student the next. Like,
yeah.
That's exactly what happened. And really, he didn't lose any significant number of followers. So,
well, I mean, here's the thing. You've been worshiping Krishna this whole time, or at least that's what you've been told. But the guy who's been talking to you the entire time is right there in front of you. It's a lot easier. That's a natural thing, right?
That sounded like the speech from Notting Hill, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just a guru standing in front of a boy, hoping that he'll still love him.
He's been standing outside your window with a boombox over his head this whole time. So Butler began to use his platform as God to rant about all the things he hates. Is this inconsistent with the notion of what a god is? Absolutely not, as anyone who has read an obscure little book simply called The Bible will know. That book is a little more than a preening, weird, insecure God screaming, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, at the top of his lungs, and then killing off a whole planet full of people in a completely incoherent fit of rage. So Butler's rants are a piece with that sort of God. So he embraced a bizarre and incoherent set of political philosophies that lean mostly to the right, and people feel like this is a reaction to his father's communist leanings, and he despised his father. Yet he was and is, he's still around, fervently pro-environmental regulation, and has some other kind of leftist policies, but it's a bit incoherent. But maybe the political position he is best known for is a ferocious hatred of all things LGBTQ.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's
That's
a
fun.
vociferous homophobe, and survivors of his cult describe endless lectures with extremely graphic language about all varieties of the sexual depredations of people he casually just calls faggots.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he's a holy man. He's also a kook. He's also a kook in other classic ways. He's a total germaphobe and insists everyone around him has to wear masks.
Oh,
And
wow.
Every space he occupies has to be outfitted with massive air filtration systems, including airplanes, making air travel a little bit more difficult for him than most. And he insists every room he occupies has to be lined with, want to take a guess, fellas? It's classic.
Plastic?
I'm going to go with
Virgins?
bread. I don't know. What is it?
Oh, come on, guys. Tinfoil.
Damn
you
it.
miss that?
Oh wow, we didn't. You know what? I was trying to think in terms of like religion and not
Yeah.
like cuckoo. So I should have gone further down the cuckoo.
I like that you find a way to separate those things.
It's cute, isn't
so,
it?
Completely lined in tin. All his houses are completely lined in tinfoil.
That's good.
Yeah, to protect him from whatever he thinks is trying to get him. I don't really give a shit. So he generally hates any form of education that doesn't emanate from his frothing mouth. So naturally, he set up a series of boarding schools in which survivors recount cold pre-dawn showers, constant hunger, and hours of chanting, but not much in the way of education, plus shockingly mild sexual abuse, given the typical pathology of cults in children. Really, it was more just the sort of behavior of too many unsupervised boys with nothing to do. And speaking of which, young students were constantly shown graphic footage of gay sexual activity and then gruesome footage of AIDS sufferers dying in agony.
oh my god! Wow.
Normal school shit. So
Did he actually go? I mean, if he's going to go the distance, he's got to put the Clockwork Orange things on the eyeballs. Otherwise, the kids could close their eyes if they're not careful.
well, they weren't allowed to watch any other sort of media. They couldn't watch TV or movies or anything. So it's probably as close as they got to entertainment. So that's not sick.
No.
So some of these schools were supervised by a guy who is, to this day, a Hawaii state senator, and more on him in just a tick. But back to Butler's anti-equality passions. Like the Rajneeshis, who listeners might recall from the excellent docu-series Wild Wild Country.
Oh my god, that
Butler
series. People need
it's
to
so
watch
good,
that.
right? So good. Have you seen it, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
So Butler wanted to gain power via the political process, but attempted to do it in a more stealthy way than the reckless Rajneeshis, who were pretty fucking open about their madness, right? So he created a front group called Independence for Godly Government. I don't know how good a front that was. And he had followers run for office. One of these fervently devoted followers that ran and won was the very same guy who set up the boarding schools I just talked about, a guy named Mike Gabbard. So he started a local radio show in the 80s called Let's Talk Straight Hawaii to promote his nonprofit, which is literally called Stop Promoting Homosexuality America, or SFA. Isn't that nice?
So wait. When he said, let's talk straight Hawaii, I was going to make a joke about it being anti-gay, but that's actually what it was. It was
Yes.
straight meaning straight.
Yes, straight. That it was a homophobic radio show in the
That's
beautiful
just
state
great.
of Hawaii. So, isn't that nice? So at the time, there was a movement in Hawaii for marriage equality. And this is where we get to do a little cross-promotion, guys, because there was another group just as homophobic and desperate to prevent any forward movement on human rights anywhere. Can you guess who, guys?
Oh,
I know.
I know exactly who that
is it?
is. That's our own homegrown guys.
Me!
That's us.
The Mormons, fellas. And as we know, the Mormons also created stealthy front groups of their own and poured millions into the fight against marriage equality in Hawaii. Cults, more the same than different since forever. So that's nice, isn't it? Anyway, Mike Gabbard ran for city council and won, and his young daughter, Tulsi, helped knock doors and pass out flyers for his basically single-issue pro-homophobia campaign. She also helped
Tulsi
him
Gabbard. Wait, I've almost not heard that name before.
Yeah, I buried the lead, didn't I? So she also helped when he ran on essentially the same homophobic platform and became a Hawaii state senator, as I already mentioned, a position he still holds today. Bigots in Hawaii too. What are you going to do? So this was a long walk to get to a sort of punchline, and that is, in air quotes, Democratic Congressperson and extreme long-shot presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, and her connection to this obviously batshit man god, the Jagged Guru Chris Butler.
Wow.
Tulsi is rightly considered a bit of an enigma. She's obviously very intelligent, despite the bizarre homeschooling she got in her cult. She's one of the better-looking people ever to stalk the halls of Congress. Not a terribly fierce competition, admittedly. She is an Iraq War vet. She's half Samoan. She claims to have evolved at least to a place of live and let live tolerance on marriage equality.
Oh, that's nice.
No, wow, what a generous position that is to take.
Isn't that kind? It's very kind. And she is anti-marijuana prohibition. But much like Trump, she seems drawn to male authoritarian figures like Assad in Syria, who she went to visit in a very bizarre episode, and Vladimir Putin, of course, but most especially right-wing Hindu nationalist Narendra Modi of India, for whom she reserves odd praise. And the dictatorial Modi lavishes her with praise and gifts, seeing her as his foothold in the U.S. Congress.
Well, that's it. Does that have to do with the sort of bizarre Indian guru heritage of this guy who's no longer aligning himself with anything Hindu or Indian?
Right. It seems probably.
Yeah.
And some people have mistaken her because she's kind of has olive skin and dark hair. Some people have thought, oh, well, maybe she's Indian American, and she's not at all. She's half Samoan, half white, half Samoan. So she has no Indian heritage that backs up the Hindu thing. And you are correct in saying that the Chris Butler and his cult have completely moved away from Hinduism. They don't describe themselves as Hindu at all. So she certainly could be, right? There's no saying she's not Hindu, but it's just the chain of Hindu custody seems a bit strange as it gets to her. So
yeah,
she's also a darling of Fox News, where she's all too happy to slash and burn other Democrats to the delight of the fascist shitbags squealing in the studio. So, like I said, she's
to the point
an
where
enigma.
people are accusing her of being a Russian asset,
like a plant,
this point,
yeah,
because she's so willing to literally spout Republican talking points. It's bizarre.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very strange behavior. But if you if you forensically tie it back to Butler's bizarre cosmology and politics, it's kind of in line with that, right?
Yeah, that's so weird.
Well, and she's popular enough that she was on the debate stage the other night, and Julian Castro was not.
There you go.
And to be truly fair, how a person is raised is not their fault. Thank God for the three of us, right?
Yeah, right.
Plenty of
Just
people are raised.
keep telling yourselves that.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Plenty of people are raised in cults or other weird situations and break free and work to put together some semblance of a sane life in the wreckage. Her parents, and her mom is the same way, her parents being vicious homophobes shouldn't be counted against her unless. Right. You see, guys, Tulsi, while admitting to having evolved on LGBTQ issues to an extent, is almost pathologically silent about her young life and her connection to Chris Butler. She will not answer questions about it, accusing anyone who asks of being Hindu-phobic bigots. This is
weird.
clear. Yeah, instantly. You're like, you're a Hindu-phobic. You hate Hindus. You're a Hindu-phobic bigot. This is clearly absurd. She came out of a very bizarre, politically belligerent, anti-human rights extremist cult. In the past, as an adult and politician, because she started winning office very, very young, in the past she publicly parroted Butler's politics and hatreds. Voters have a right to know if she still holds these beliefs and if she still believes this Hawaiian Howard Hughes is God. And small point, as we were just mentioning before, I want to make it clear, the cult and Butler do not identify as Hindu in any way at all anymore. So I don't know what to make of that. But
That's so interesting because I just looked up Tulsi Gabbard's IMDb page, and it lists her at least in part as having grown up Hindu, or it says she embraced the Hindu faith as a teenager.
well, that's true
fascinating.
because when her parents joined Butler's cult, he was just a cleric, running a local chapter of the Hare Krishna.
It was still Hindu at the time.
Right.
Right. It was still Hindu, and so it evolved over time as Butler kind of made it about him rather than Krishna, to the degree where now they have no connection to Krishna at all.
That's so nuts.
They still do chanting. They do a lot of things that look like Hinduism,
Right.
but they aren't. So
They have 100% more tinfoil.
It's entirely possible that she kept that tradition, that she kept that faith when the family diverged from it, but she won't talk about it, right?
Right.
She refuses every opportunity to disavow or to embrace Butler's divinity and teachings. And her campaign is staffed by other members of the Butler cult.
Oh,
her
wow.
parents are still fully involved in it, and her fiancé was also raised in the cult. In 2015, she recorded a video praising Butler as her guru by his fancy name. But, as for you pieces of shit out there, it seems like none of that is any of your business, right?
Right.
So this is what I want to talk about here a little bit, guys, at the end of our segment, is people like Tulsi Gabbard and our friend Mitt Romney seem to think their histories with high demand religions with, unquestionable charismatic leaders are none of our business. And I, for one, disagree.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, it's funny because a politician's belief system is their business until it informs anything in how
Yes.
they do their job, which
Yes.
it invariably must. So guess what? We got to know.
Yeah. But it's also, whenever a politician is running for office, there's always a biopic or, a biography. And we find out about how hard scrabble their parents were and where they grew up in the Midwest and learned Midwestern fucking values.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with the Midwest.
The color of the bootstraps that they use to pull
Precisely.
themselves up.
And then
Exactly.
yada, yada, yada. And now they're in Congress. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's this one thing that's the fundamental thing that they believe.
If it wasn't for Joe Biden, I wouldn't even know Scranton existed. Right?
Yeah.
That's a
But
Joe
there's
Biden
one
deep
thing
cut.
that this one thing that means so much to them and truly informs their worldview we don't get to talk about. Like Mitt Romney never had to answer questions about Mormonism.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And so, I just read, I just heard our former mayor, Rocky Anderson, our former Salt Lake City mayor, before our recent mayoral elections in Salt Lake City on the radio talking about one of the candidates, Luz, and how she was kind of squirrely about admitting her Mormon beliefs.
She was.
And then when I read a little bit further, she was kind of an apologist for conversion therapy, the horrible practice of trying to torture gay teenagers into not being gay anymore.
Right.
And that's because of Mormonism,
Yep.
right? So that's not okay. That is her religion infecting her politics in a negative way that could cause, considerable harm to people.
Well, and when you think about someone who follows a religion that has a leader who is not allowed to be questioned. Mormonism has a leader that you're not allowed to question. The Catholicism has a leader that you're not allowed to question. And having a as your leader, who is a god, a self-declared sort of god among men, it means that at some point there's somebody who could say, hey, president person, I command you to do X.
And that was exactly the fear that surrounded Kennedy when he ran as the first Catholic. Right. And he had to address it, and he had to address it directly. I mean, if you go back and read the speech, and we talked about, I'm an American and then a Catholic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mitt Romney gave his speech in 2012, which was the exact opposite.
Right.
I'm a Mormon, shut the fuck up, vote for me.
How dare you?
Right.
Right. How dare you even talk about, there is no America without religion, was the point of his speech.
Right.
We've gotten so far afield from, Tulsi Gabbard having to explain herself. Do you believe this guy is a living God? And if he orders you to launch the nukes, will you do it?
Right.
I'm sorry. I think we need to know that.
Yeah, that's a pretty valid question. Fortunately, this woman has no chance of even becoming a nominee.
What, fuckers? We were saying the same thing about a certain real estate developer, multiple married, bankrupt piece of shit like 3 years ago. So
it's true.
I don't know. The American public has proved itself to be refreshingly stupid on more than one occasion. So.
It is refreshing. It is every time you encounter it, it's a new version of the stupid, and it's cute.
You know what I just realized, and it just occurred to me too, is Barack Obama did have to face these questions. Remember when Reverend Wright?
It's true.
They
Absolutely.
played his speeches and demanded that Barack Obama explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What was it about Barack Obama that made him different from all the others?
It was that he was a Hawaiian.
That's what it is.
Oh wait, no,
no.
That's not right.
Fuck.
The same demands were made of Ilhan Omar.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
The first Somali American congressperson, and I don't know the degree of her Muslim practice, but her progressive politics tell me she can't be that severe a Muslim. But yeah, the right wing demanded answers. Is she a terrorist?
Yeah,
and
I do think those questions should be asked, but I think they should be asked of everybody.
Yeah.
Especially when the guy that leads your church looks like the one I just sent you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the problem with how the right has tied itself so dramatically. Because, if you got right-wing politics in you, I'm not going to take issue with that. But the problem is that if you believe that the purpose of your politics is to enshrine your belief system, your religious belief system, and sort of enforce it on and push it onto everybody else, or at least make everybody else abide by the rules of your belief system, then we got a problem, and that is a distinct that is what's happening.
The irony, of course.
Sorry, Doug.
Oh, I was going to say the irony, of course, is that the most reckless and dangerous president in our history believes in exactly nothing.
Well, there's that.
Well, as we concluded a couple of weeks ago, you're not an atheist if you think you yourself are God.
Right.
But I think that I would rather have the Mike Huckabees, who are very public about their garbage beliefs, be very public about it, than Tulsi Gabbard being so secretive and stealthy about what she believes and how much command this guy has over her life. Right.
Vote Huckabee.
That level of caginess
oh my
is
God,
scary.
Yeah. I guess I just endorsed Mike Huckabee. So that's the last podcast, guys. Thanks for everything. Dan, turn the lights out. All right, let's move on.
Well, with those glaring endorsements in place, I think we can move on.